Some crazy, crazy news, folks. What's up, everybody? Fred Richani, TSC. We have some breaking news courtesy of TMZ. Hulk Hogan, the six-time world champion, one of the most iconic and influential wrestlers of all time, one of the most controversial and despised wrestlers of all time, and frankly, for good reason, has passed away. TMZ reports that he has passed away. He is dead at 71. You see the article right here behind me if you're watching on video. Wrestling legend Hulk Hogan has died at 71 years old. TMZ Sports has learned. Medics were dispatched to the 71-year-old WWE icon's Clearwater home early Thursday morning, while operators saying it was a cardiac arrest. So seems like the official cause of death might be cardiac arrest. We're told a slew of police cars and EMTs were parked outside Hogan's home, and the icon was carried on a stretcher and into an ambulance. Just a few weeks ago, Hogan's wife, Sky, denied rumors he was in a coma, stating that his heart was strong as he recovered from surgeries. It was very interesting that Eric Bischoff was making all these media appearances and just claiming Hulk's fine. It was interesting that Jimmy Hart was making all these media appearances saying Hulk was fine. And look, at the end of the day, his health is his business, right? I'm not saying he owed it to us to tell us what was going on with Hulk Hogan, but it seemed interesting. It also seemed interesting because Hogan was just involved in a venture called Real American Wrestling, which wasn't drawing crap to flies. It was amateur wrestling, but on a quote-unquote bigger scale. And I think last time I checked, they sold like 300, 400 tickets at a 20,000-seat venue. So another Bischoff failure right there. Anyway, TMZ continues. We broke the story last month. There were rumblings that Hogan was on his deathbed, but we were told at the time he was just dealing with symptoms of a neck procedure he underwent in May. And then it goes on to talk about his legacy. Now, look, Hulk Hogan has an extremely, extremely complicated legacy, and one that I think is going to be analyzed for years to come, right? You got the good. The good is you can't tell the story of professional wrestling without Hulk Hogan, right? You can't tell the story of the NWO without Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was the face of WWE in the 80s and early 90s. He helped bring wrestling to the mainstream. He bridged the gap with MTV and Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T. He headlined the first WrestleMania. He headlined the first several WrestleManias. And then he got passe, didn't want to put over Bret Hart, didn't want to do business the quote-unquote right way, as they say. And he decided, you know what, I'm going to retire and do a bunch of movies. Did some movies that weren't very good. Some were okay. And then he went to WCW. Seismic shift for WCW. For any younger fans that are wondering, what would this be the equivalent of this? This would be like, imagine when AEW signed Chris Jericho before he was completely washed in 2019 and multiply it by like 100 or 1,000. Like, that's what Hulk Hogan was when he went to WCW. Maybe not that much, maybe like 50 times of what Jericho was in 2019, but he was very valuable. And he got a sweetheart deal, and he really helped make them a major player. And then a couple years later, he was starting to get really stale. Hulkamania wasn't really the end thing anymore. And what happened? Well, he turned heel, formed a little group called the NWO, the New World Order, with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, and bam! He's all of a sudden he's 1/3 of one of the most influential factions in wrestling history. To this day, their NWO shirts still sold, which is crazy. But then there's the other side of Hulk Hogan. There's the side that, just from a wrestling standpoint, didn't really want to do business, brother, and whatever. That's wrestling stuff. Then there's the real bad business side of Hogan, where, if you believe what Jesse Ventura says, he was a union busting POS who prevented wrestlers from unionizing. And you know what? I think a union would have helped right now when WWE is a multi-billion-dollar company. And then, of course, you have the real-life implications, who he associates with. Agent Orange, Peter Thiel. And then, of course, the awful racist rant. And yes, it was a private tape of him being with his then best friend's wife, which is different strokes for different folks. But the fact that not only was he on camera, audibly saying the N-word multiple times, he said it multiple times while also referring to his now estranged daughter's then boyfriend, who happened to be black. So that's just also awful to say about your daughter's significant other. And then on top of that, I believe he said, and I might be slightly paraphrasing here, he said, I am a racist. He said that. Now, when that tape was leaked years later, because I think this is like from 06, 07, it was leaked in 2015. He got fired from WWE. They eventually brought him back. Did he ever actually apologize? Did you ever actually say? Did he ever try like? And I'm not a fan of Dog the Bounty Hunter, but did he at least try the Dog the Bounty Hunter treatment of, hey, you know what? Like, I effed up, I screwed up. This is awful. I'm gonna take a trip to Africa. All this other stuff. I mean, Dog the Bounty Hunter was doing too much, but at least like, and look, I think Dog was still racist, but I'm just saying, like, did he at least try to like act like he wasn't a racist? Like, no, he apologized for getting caught. He apologized for getting caught. He says, be careful what you say on camera. Did he ever actually apologize for saying the N word? Did he ever actually apologize directly to his black fans, to black people? No, he never did. He never really did. And trust me, I've watched a lot of interviews. I got blocked by him at one point. And yeah, I never saw him show any actual remorse for what he actually said, only what he was quote unquote caught saying. So as far as the story of Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, one of the most influential of all time, but a man who at some point became also extremely detrimental to the business that he helped prop up. From his bad booking in TNA, the terrible creative control in WCW. And look, in fairness, he was enabled by people who he worked for, who were richer than him, right? The union busting, which to this day, the effects of pro wrestling, it's still affected to this day. You know what I mean? I'm not saying Jesse Ventura would have been successful, but he would have gotten a lot farther along if Hulk Hogan didn't rat him out. And then, again, the last 10 years of his life have been spent kind of being associated with racism and bigotry and just being a clown carny and, still being associated with Eric Bischoff. I mean, both those guys are clowns. And yeah, and then also, the real life aspect of things, not just, beyond the racism and everything, just his personal life. I mean, Brooke Hogan pretty much publicly said that she wasn't really talking to her parents anymore. Really sad. And if you want to go even deeper, his son practically made his best friend a vegetable, and Hulk was caught on video or on audio saying bad things about said friend who was practically brain dead, John Graziano. So, yeah, I understand there's a lot of fans that will miss Hulk Hogan. I understand there's a lot of fans that it'll be hard for him to reconcile the fact that this guy, he was like the Cena at the time, but like much bigger, right? It's hard to reconcile. Like, oh my goodness, this guy was also maybe not the nicest person, to say the least. But then again, you have a slew of other fans that are going to be like, well, wait a minute. He said these awful things. He never apologized. You have the Graziano family who are like, wait a minute. Like, did he ever apologize to us? Did he even have any remorse for our son? So it's complicated. It's a complicated legacy. At the end of the day, look, full disclosure, I'm friends with a lot of wrestlers. Some wrestlers I'm friends with were friends with Hulk Hogan. They know my feelings about it, but I do send my condolences, to them. And anybody who is, personally affected by this. Again, you can't tell the story of pro wrestling without Hulk Hogan. He is one of the most influential wrestlers of all time. And look, like him or hate him, and, I tend to lean more towards not liking him, full disclosure. It is shocking. You know what I mean? Like, him passing away is like the equivalent of, really, it's like Ozzy Osbourne. No matter how you felt personally about Ozzy Osbourne, like, these are the type of guys that you don't think are ever going to die. They just live forever, right? I mean, it's the same thing. I feel like, God forbid if Ric Flair passes away, soon. Like, it doesn't feel real, right? Larger than life. And it's kind of crazy how, like, over the years, we've lost so many larger than life wrestlers just in the last, like, 10, 15 years, like Roddy Piper, Dusty Rhodes, Hulk Hogan. It's wild. I'm sure there's a few more I'm forgetting. But anyway, what did you think Hulk Hogan's legacy is?